So here I thought that 2025 was going to be a good year for gaming. Boy, oh boy, I was wrong. I am backtracking so hard on that statement. So, for those of you who don't know or were not aware, let me catch you up to speed real quick. Towards the end of 2024, in the late months of December, I made a video talking about how 2025 was looking good for gaming because we had all these really cool games coming out. Games like Grand Theft Auto 6, games like Warside, games like Atana, and games like Elden Ring Night Rain. And so far, at least from what I'm aware of, and at least from my personal expectations for this year, it's looking pretty rough. We had games like Warside that came out for PC earlier this year, and it ended up as a complete disaster. And then after that, we had games like Grand Theft Auto 6 that was supposed to come out this year, but it got delayed from 2025 into 2026 of next year, which is understandable. I get it. You need more time to work on the game. And then we got games like Elden Ring Night Rain that was a hit or miss with some people. Personally, I thought the game was okay. It wasn't great. I did get my money's worth with that game. I just recently put out a review for Elden Ring Night Rain about a week ago at this point, and it's not just about the game releases that are also coming out, but it's also a lot of other crazy things going on within the gaming industry. We got massive layoffs going on with Microsoft. We got massive layoffs going on just in general, actually. We got a bunch of bricked consoles from Nintendo, and Nintendo is trying to brick people's consoles for doing basic shit such as changing their username because they want to change it to something else, or they want to modify their gaming console, and Nintendo says, no, fuck you, this is our console, we dictate what you do. And they brick their console, basically making it unplayable. We got a lot of controversial AI stuff still going on within the gaming industry for game development. Most of everyone's favorite video game franchises, like Call of Duty, are being turned into glorified shopping malls that just get riddled with a bunch of microtransactions. We got a lot of live service games that are shutting down within months at the earliest now because most live service games nowadays that are being developed, they don't last like a full year now, and we got games like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that only lasted like a year, and games like Conquered that only lasted 2 weeks, and those live service games have basically been shut down because nobody liked them. We got $80 games now to possibly $90 games, at least if you're playing on Nintendo consoles, but we mostly have $80 games now because Nintendo has started this new trend with $80 games, and Microsoft is now moving to this $80 price tag with their games going forward as well. And as of now, at least from what I'm aware of, I don't even think Sony has issued a price increase yet with their games. Unless they have, and I'm just being stupid, but at least from what I'm aware of, they haven't done it yet, but they are definitely considering it. And to make matters worse, the ownership of our video games are basically now at risk because Ubisoft has started this notorious toxic trend of gamers should get comfortable not owning their games. And basically all other companies now, like Activision, EA, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, have all considered this trend of gamers should get comfortable not owning their games, and they are trying to normalize the idea of you own nothing and you will be happy with it. And that is just such a horrible concept to even tell your customers. And funny enough, I even talked a little bit about this in my last video about stop killing video games because the ownership of our video games now are at risk, especially because we're starting to approach a digital only future where most of these video games that we really like are just digital only. Like games like Black Myth Wukong, for example, or maybe even games like Kazan the First Berserker, which is the gameplay you're seeing on screen. Because I want to try to preserve these games, and I'm pretty sure some of you folks watching this video want to try to preserve the games you buy, because whatever games we buy, regardless, I mean, whether it be a physical copy or a digital copy, it doesn't matter. If you buy the game, you should have the rights to own it. You get yourself a physical copy, and all the data is on the disc, so you can play it right then and there. Or if you want to get a game digitally, you can buy it and then download the file so you can have that game onto your console's hardware and download it whenever you want, so you don't have to rely on the goddamn servers or the internet, so you can just reinstall the game whenever you want. Once you download the file, you should have it. That's how distribution should work. You download the file, you have it. If you buy a physical copy of a game with all the data on there, you have it. It's that simple. But yet we have massive corporations like Microsoft that are just falling the fuck apart, and their company is on fire because they're going through mass layoffs within the company, and they're still going through mass layoffs. And yet Nintendo is also caught within this crossfire with bricking people's consoles, because Nintendo recently came out with the Switch 2 this year. I believe last month on June 5th, I believe, is when they released the console. And it's been like, what, a whole month since the console has been out? And we're already seeing companies like Nintendo bricking people's Switches for doing basically the simplest of things, such as changing their usernames to Twinklink. No, I am not joking. Somebody over on Twitter tried to post to let people know they had their sister change their username to Twinklink because they wanted to do something funny, and Nintendo said, no, we don't like that, so we're bricking your console because fuck you. So basically, you just wasted $450 on a console, and it's basically a useless paperweight now. So if you try to like change your username if you're playing on like the Switch 2, or if you try to modify it in a different way to where you can make the hardware run better for you so you can change your own experience, then Nintendo can basically just destroy your console and brick it, making it completely useless. So you have a useless brick that is just sitting on your table and it's just staring at you. And to make matters even worse, if you're just going to play video games like Call of Duty, for example, it just seems like every single time when a new AAA game gets released, like Call of Duty, like I've already said, it just seems like every new massive AAA game that comes out now is just riddled with so many unnecessary microtransactions. These companies are so money brained and so corporatized brained to the point where their biggest priority is to focus on selling you so many microtransactions within the item shop, and their primary focus is to make microtransactions more than focus on the quality of their games. Because if, God forbid, something happened to the digital storefronts, then that's usually when we see all hands on deck so they can get those microtransactions up and ready to go, and they can fix it so people can waste their money on them. As of now, the gaming industry just completely fucking sucks right now, and it's such a shitty time to be a gamer, especially because these corporations have been shitting on the consumers and their gamers for far too long, and they know that they can get away with it. Because they know that not enough people are gonna call them out for it. Not enough people are gonna call them out for their anti-consumer business practices, and not enough people are gonna stand up against these corporations. When will it be time when people actually had enough of this constant anti-consumer business practice with these corporations? When will it get to a point with consumers where they finally take a stand against these companies and they tell companies like Activision, EA, Microsoft, Ubisoft, Nintendo, Sony, when will it get to a point where the consumer will finally take a stand against these companies and they tell them, look, stop stop it! We're getting sick and tired of this constant anti-consumer bullshit. People like me are going to be making a full transition to indie developer companies now, and we're going to be supporting indie developers, so they're going to be the ones making the hits in gaming, and not companies like Microsoft and not companies like Sony or Nintendo, because indie developers have outshined AAA games like Halo Infinite, they have outshined games like Call of Duty, you name it. A good example. Look at games like Baldur's Gate 3 that was made by Larian Studios. They are also an indie developer studio, and they made Baldur's Gate 3 probably one of the most successful video games this entire console generation for Xbox Series X and S and the PS5, and it's still one of the best games of the entire console generation. Even games like Helldivers 2, that took the entire internet by storm at one point, that is a co op shooter, and that is one of the best co op games that we currently have to this day. As a matter of fact, there have been reports that Helldivers 2 is even coming to Xbox pretty soon. So that way you can team up with your friends over on Xbox as well. So you can play with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC kids. So that way the three massive platforms can unite and they can all play Helldivers 2 together. But that's going to be a topic for another day. At this point, man, I don't know what to say anymore. It just seems like the gaming industry is stuck in this massive rut that it just cannot escape. And it just seems like it's only going to get worse from here on out. And it just seems like indie companies and indie developers are the only ones left in gaming that actually care about their customers. So, with this being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. And until next time, I'm talking about how 2025 is looking rough for gaming, and I will see you all later.